Imagine for a second that you are standing in the absolute heart of Thessaloniki.
Oh, that is a great place to start.
Right. It's a crisp Friday morning in late February. You've got the city soundtrack playing in the background.
The horns, the traffic.
Exactly. A mix of distant car horns, maybe the hiss of espresso machines from like a dozen different cafes, and that low hum of conversation. You are walking down a street that feels like the actual spine of the city's social life.
It really is.
To your left, you see the latest fashion in a shop window. Maybe a mannequin wearing something you can't quite afford, but definitely want.
We've all been there.
And to your right, someone is rushing past to a meeting with a spinach pie, a spanakopita in their hand, literally leaving a trail of flaky pastry on the sidewalk. You are, of course, on Diehl Str.
It is, without a doubt, the place to be. I mean, it's where commerce meets coffee culture.
Yeah.
It's a hub. It connects the sea straight up to the market. It's the artery that pumps life into the center of the city.
It is a staple of our daily lives. Everyone knows Diehl. We meet there, we shop there, we definitely complain about the double parking there.
Constantly.
Constantly. But here is the hook, and really why we are doing this deep dive today. Who on earth is the guy on the Blue Street sign?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, we say his name every single day. Let's meet at Diehl, grab me a coffee in Diehl, but I would bet most of us have zero idea who he actually was. Was he a politician, a general, a rich merchant?
It is a tragedy, really, that his name has just become a geographical marker for coffee dates.
Right.
Because if you went back in time to the early 20th century, Charles Diehl wasn't just a name on a map. He was a massive celebrity in the academic world.
Really? A celebrity?
So yeah, he was basically the Indiana Jones of Byzantine history for his time.
Okay, Indiana Jones is a very bold claim. I'm picturing, a fedora and a whip running away from a giant boulder in a temple.
Well, okay, maybe replace the whip with a very detailed notebook.
Fair enough.
And the boulder with a crumbling wall of an ancient church. But the spirit is exactly the same. He wasn't just reading dusty books in a comfortable library in Paris. He was here, on the ground in Thessaloniki.
Climbing scaffolding and everything.
Exactly, inspecting ruins, climbing up into the rafters, and arriving with a very specific, very critical mission regarding the Agia Sophia.
So that is our mission for this deep dive. We aren't just doing a standard biography of a dead French historian. We are trying to connect three dots today that might seem totally separate, but actually tell the incredible story of how this city evolved.
Right. We have dot number one.
Which is the man himself.
Yes. The life of this brilliant historian who basically fought to restore the entire reputation of the Byzantine Empire when everyone else thought it was, well, trash.
And then dot two.
The street itself today, which is basically an open-air architectural museum if you just know where to look.
And dot three, which is the chaos.
And the traffic.
Yes. The very recent, very real changes to the street's traffic that happened just last month, January 2026, that are completely reshaping how we move through the center of the city.
It's a journey from 19th century fires all the way to 2026 urban planning. And it all happens on this one single street.
So let's unpack this. Let's start with dot one, the man. Who was Charles Diehl? Because when I hear the phrase 19th century historian, I immediately picture a very dry, very boring, dusty old man.
He was anything but dry.
Yeah.
So let's get the basics down first. Charles Diehl was born in Strasbourg, France in 1859, and he passed away in Paris in 1944. He was an absolute academic powerhouse. He studied at the École Normale Supérieure.
Which is a big deal in France, right?
The elite of the elite. If you go there, you are set.
Yeah.
He was a member of the French schools in Rome and Athens, and eventually he became a professor at the Sorbonne in Paris, where he actually founded the Institute of Byzantine Studies.
Okay, so he's a very fancy French academic. I get that. But why do we care about his writing style? Because in the sources we looked at, people kept describing his writing as having incomparable grace and a vivid narrative.
Yeah.
That does not sound like your typical history textbook. Usually, academic writing is where fun goes to die.
That is the key differentiator with Diehl. He wasn't a dry scholar writing just for other scholars. He was a storyteller.
He wanted people to actually read it.
Exactly. He understood that history is about people, not just memorizing dates and treaties. He wrote this incredibly famous book called Figures Byzantines.
Byzantine portraits.
Yes. And in that book, he took these historical figures, emperors, empresses, generals, who had been dead for 1,000 years, and he literally turned them back into flesh and blood characters.
Give me an example. Who did he bring back to life?
Take Empress Theodora.
Oh, the wife of Justinian.
Right. Before Diehl came along, she was often dismissed by historians,
Yeah.
or she was viewed through a very biased, very misogynistic lens as just a scandalous figure.
Because of the old texts.
Yes, histories written by her enemies, like Procopius, portrayed her as a manipulator, a former actress.
Which meant something different back then.
Right, it was a polite way of saying prostitute in those days. They just said she seduced the Emperor Justinian to get power.
So she was just written off as the villainess of the story, a caricature.
Exactly. But Diehl wrote about her with incredible complexity. He showed her intelligence. He highlighted her political savvy.
He gave her some agency.
He completely gave her agency. He depicted this famous moment during the Nika riots.
Which was a massive rebellion that almost destroyed the city,
A
right?
total disaster. Half the city burned down. Justinian was terrified and actually wanted to pack up and flee the city. He was ready to give up the empire.
And what did Theodore do?
According to the accounts Diehl highlighted, Theodore stood up in the council and said, essentially, that purple makes a fine burial shroud, meaning, I would rather die as an empress than live as a fugitive.
Wow, that is intense.
She refused to run. And because of her, Justinian stayed. They crushed the rebellion, and she saved the throne. Diehl wrote that scene so vividly, he made you feel like you were standing in the room with her. He treated her as a complex political actor.
So he basically made Byzantium cool again.
In a way, yes. You have to understand the context of the 19th century. The bias against Byzantium in Western Europe was huge.
Because of Edward Gibbon?
Precisely. Gibbon wrote The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, which is a massive, highly influential work. But Gibbon viewed Byzantium as just a long, pathetic, slow decline.
Just 1,000 years of coasting.
Right, a period of stagnation. He thought it was 1,000 years of decay after the real glory of Rome had fallen.
That is a very heavy reputation to fight against, the whole Dark Ages narrative.
It was entrenched in the academic world. Diehl fought against that narrative with everything he had. He championed Byzantium as a civilization of absolute grandeur, of art, of deep sophistication.
He flipped the script.
He argued that while Western Europe was literally rolling in the mud during the early Middle Ages, Constantinople and Thessaloniki were beacons of gold and philosophy and law. He rehabilitated the reputation of an entire empire.
And the thing is, he didn't just do this from a desk in Paris. He actually came here, to Thessaloniki.
He had to. You cannot understand Byzantium without Thessaloniki. It was the co-reigning city, the second city of the empire. And because he was here in the early 1900s, he witnessed things that are permanently lost to us now.
This is where the Indiana Jones aspect really comes in.
Exactly. He was one of the only major historians to see specific monuments in person before they were either destroyed or fundamentally altered.
Like what did he see that we can't see today?
The most tragic example is the Basilica of St. Demetrius.
Our patron saint.
Right. Today, we go in and we see a beautiful church, but we have to remember that much of it is a modern reconstruction. Diehl saw the original 7th century mosaics covering those walls.
And then the Great Fire happened.
The Great Fire of 1917. It wiped out almost the entire historical center, including the roof and most of the interior of St. Demetrios. Those original mosaics melted.
That gives me chills. He was literally one of the last expert witnesses to that art.
He was. And he documented them. He sketched them. He wrote about their colors and techniques. If not for his painstaking work, we wouldn't even know what some of those masterpieces look like.
He preserved them on paper.
Yes, and because he had built this reputation as the ultimate authority on Byzantine art, when the Ottoman administration decided they needed to fix up the Agia Sophia, they knew exactly who to call.
Okay, let's transition into that. Part 2 of our story, the rescue of Hagia Sophia. Because today, when you walk past it, we see this majestic, solid church sitting in a sunken courtyard in the center of the city. But in the early 1900s, it was a very different story, wasn't it?
Radically different. The building had been severely damaged by a massive fire in 1890.
Another fire. Thessaloniki and fires, I swear.
It's a running theme in the city's history. But by the time Diehl actually got involved, the building had been standing there, heavily damaged, for over 15 years.
And we should clarify, it wasn't operating as a church at that time.
No, it was a mosque. It had been functioning as a mosque since 1430, when the Ottomans first conquered the city.
Right.
But here is the really interesting twist. The Ottoman administration at the time, specifically under a man named Hilmi Pasha, they wanted to modernize the city.
Wait, really? I think the common assumption is that the late Ottoman administration was just letting all these old buildings crumble into dust.
That's a huge misconception, especially for this specific era. Hilmi Pasha wanted Thessaloniki to look and function like a modern, cosmopolitan European capital.
They were trying to rebrand.
Exactly. It was a massive PR move. They invited European experts across all fields to help update the infrastructure and restore these historic monuments. So from 1907 to 1909, Charles Diehl is brought in to lead the restoration project of the Hagia Sophia.
So, just to summarize, the Ottoman Empire hires a French academic to restore a Byzantine church that is currently functioning as a mosque.
Yep.
That is the most Thessaloniki sentence I have ever heard in my life.
It is the absolute definition of cosmopolitanism. The layers of culture working together there are incredible.
So when we walk into that church today, what are we actually seeing that Diehl helped save?
Well, first, just look at the structure itself. It's a fascinating building architecturally because it's a transitional style.
Transitional implies it's stuck halfway between two different things.
Exactly. It is bridging the gap between the older domed basilica style.
Which is what, exactly?
Think of a big, long rectangular hall with a dome slapped on top. That's the older style. And then it bridges to the later cross and square style, which is that classic plus sign shape we see in almost all later Byzantine churches.
So Hagia Sophia is the missing link.
Exactly. It has the heavy, chunky footprint of a basilica, but you can see the emerging shape of the cross in the roof line. But the real treasure, what Diehl was really there for, is the interior art.
The mosaics.
The mosaics are world-class. Diehl worked tirelessly to preserve the incredible mosaic in the main dome. It depicts the Ascension of Christ. It's from the 9th century.
What makes it so special?
If you look up, you see Christ in what's called a glory, this incredible sphere of light and layered colors. And he is surrounded by the Virgin Mary, the 12 apostles, and 2 angels. But it's not just the figures, it's the emotion.
The emotion of the figures.
Yes, in older Byzantine art, figures can look very stiff, very detached. But here, the apostles aren't just standing quietly. They look confused. They look amazed. Some of them look genuinely terrified.
They're reacting to a miracle.
Exactly. They are shielding their eyes from the divine light. It captures the very human, visceral reaction to a supernatural event. It is an absolute masterpiece of color and composition. And Diehl made sure it didn't just flake off the ceiling and disappear forever.
Wow. And there's a story about the apse, too, right? The curved wall right behind the altar area.
Oh, the apse is a fascinating piece of political and religious history. Originally, during the iconoclastic period, that apse looked very, very different.
Okay, let's pause for a quick second. Iconoclastic period. We need to unpack that for listeners who might have skipped Byzantine history class.
Fair point. So, iconoclasm literally translates to image breaking. For a period in Byzantine history, the imperial government decided that painting pictures of Jesus or Mary or the saints was essentially idol worship.
Like worshiping a false idol instead of God.
Right. It was officially banned.
Yeah.
Illegal. If you had an icon in your house, you were in serious trouble.
So no faces, no holy figures in the churches at all.
Nothing. So originally, that apse in Hagia Sophia just had a very simple, massive cross made of gold mosaic tiles. No Mary, no Jesus, just the raw symbol.
Very minimalist.
Very. But later, after the iconophiles, the people who loved and supported icons, won the massive theological debate in 787 AD, that cross was replaced.
They went back in and changed the art.
Yes. They plastered right over that minimalist cross and put up the image of the Theotokos, the Virgin Mary, holding the Christ child.
So the physical building itself tells the story of that religious civil war.
It does.
It's like peeling back layers of old wallpaper in a house and finding a political manifesto written on the plaster.
That is a perfect analogy. You can actually still see the faint outline of the original cross bleeding through the later mosaic if you look closely. And here is the real aha moment for us today. When you stand in Hagia Sophia and look up at those mosaics, you are partly looking through Charles Diehl's eyes.
Because he saved them.
His work stabilized them. His documentation preserved our understanding of the timelines. He's a huge part of the reason we can still appreciate them today. He saw those layers, and he understood that the building wasn't just an old church. It was a living document of the city's history.
That is profound. So the street we walk on every day isn't just named after a guy who wrote a smart book in France. It is named after the guy who came in and essentially saved the crown jewel of that very neighborhood.
Precisely. Because think about it. Without his intervention in 1907, stabilizing the dome and the walls, who knows what would have happened during all the turmoil that followed?
The Balkan Wars, World War I, the Big Fire.
Exactly. The building might not have survived those decades in the condition we see it today.
Okay, so let's step out of the church and onto the pavement itself. Part 3. The street has its own history. Because the actual physical street we walk on today, the straight lines, the sidewalks, That didn't really exist in this form when Diehl was doing his restoration work, did it?
No, not at all. The general area was there, of course, but it was a dense tangle of narrow, winding, chaotic Ottoman streets. It was a maze.
Which has its own charm, but it's not what we have now.
Right. The layout we see today, the straight lines, the organized city blocks, the grid, that all comes from the Ernest Hebrod plan.
The French architect who redesigned the city.
Yes, right after the Great Fire of 1917.
That fire really was the reset button for Thessaloniki.
It wiped the slate completely clean in the center. It destroyed almost everything. So when the government decided to rebuild, they didn't just rebuild the old wooden houses on the old crooked streets. They completely redesigned the city from scratch.
They wanted to go modern.
They wanted wide boulevards. They wanted ventilation, sanitation, order. This is known as the Hippodamian system, a grid plan.
But the rebuilding didn't happen overnight, obviously.
No, it took years of planning and land redistribution. The buildings we actually see on Carolou Diehl today mostly started going up around 1924 and 1925.
And this is what I absolutely love about this street. It is like a vertical timeline. You can literally walk past these buildings and watch the architectural trends changing year by year, block by block. Let's do a virtual walk right now.
Let's do.
We are standing at the corner of Samiski and Carolou Diehl, looking up. What are we looking at?
We're looking at the Megaro Prividiraki, though to be fair, most people today just know it as the Zara building.
Oh, I know it well. I have spent way too much money in that building.
As have half the people listening, probably. But next time you go, look at the bones of the building, not just the mannequins in the window. It was built in 1924 by a prominent architect named Leonidas Palaiologos. The style is what architectural historians call eclectic.
Okay, eclectic is a great word, but what does it actually mean in terms of architecture? Does it just mean random?
Not random, no. It means it is a greatest hits album of architectural styles.
Oh, I like that.
It pulls from everywhere.
Yeah.
It's highly symmetrical. It's grand. It has elements of classical Greek architecture, maybe some Baroque influence in the detailing. It's strictly divided into 3 horizontal zones.
Like a base, a middle, and a top.
Exactly. The base for the shops, the main body with the grand windows, and the decorative crown. It screams 1920s prosperity. The message of that building is we survived the fire, we are back, and we have serious money.
But wait, there's something new on top of that building, isn't there? Because I remember looking up a few years ago and thinking, was that dome always there? I didn't remember a dome.
You have a good eye. That dome was absolutely not in the original 1924 plans.
Really?
It was actually added entirely during a major renovation in 2010.
A 2010 dome on a 1924 historic building. Is that even allowed?
It is, if it's done correctly and approved by the preservation boards. And in this case, it actually adds a really unique touch. It's a fantastic example of how a historic, protected building can be adapted for modern commercial use without ruining its character.
So Zara pays for the upkeep, basically.
Exactly. Zara moving in and doing that renovation essentially saved that building from urban decay. It's a symbiotic relationship. The retail brand gets a highly prestigious corner location, and the city gets to keep its beautiful historic facade in perfect condition.
Okay, let's keep walking up the street. Towards Irmu, there's another massive, imposing building on that corner.
Ah, yes. That's the Megaro Chatsidimula, built also in 1924, but by a different architect, Diehl. And the name tells you who it was built for. Hercules Chatsidimoulis.
Hercules Chatsidimoulis. Now that is a powerful name. Who was he?
He was a phenomenally wealthy cotton industrialist, originally from Edessa. And the building completely reflects that industrial power. This wasn't just an apartment building to him. It was a statement of dominance.
How so?
Just look at the main entrance on the street. It features this massive marble frame that is designed to look exactly like a triumphal arch from antiquity.
A triumphal arch just for your front door. That is quite the flex.
It is the ultimate flex. And if you look very closely at the keystone of the arch, the big stone right at the very top center, you can see his initials, HC, deeply carved into the marble.
He literally stamped his name on the city grid. I built this. I am here.
Exactly. But it is missing something today. The old notes and photos show a turret.
A turret, like a castle.
Yeah, like many grand buildings of that eclectic era, it originally had an ornate corner turret, a little tower perched right on the corner of the roof. It gave the building a very distinct romantic silhouette against the sky.
What happened to it?
It fell during the devastating 1978 earthquake.
Oh, wow. Nature literally pruning the architecture.
That's a poetic way to see it. So today, if you look up and the building looks slightly asymmetrical at the top, or if that corner looks a bit suspiciously flat compared to the rest of the ornamentation, that is why. It is a permanent scar from the earthquake.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's move just a little further up the block to Carolou Diehl number 24, because this is where the vibe shifts completely. We are standing in front of the higher girls' school, which is now the 15th high school.
This is genuinely one of my personal favorite buildings in the whole city. It was designed and built in 1933 by Nikos Mitsakis.
Notice the date there, 1933.
Right, we are almost a full decade later than the rich mansions we just looked at.
And it looks totally, fundamentally different. It is not fancy. It doesn't have marble arches or cotton baron initials carved into the stone.
Not at all. This building represents the arrival of modernism in Greece. This is the direct influence of the Bauhaus movement from Germany.
Function over form.
Exactly. Mitsakis wasn't interested in showing off how much money the city had. He was interested in pure, unadulterated function. How does a building serve its users?
The windows are really weird, though. Or rather, the lack of traditional windows on the street side. It looks almost blank.
It looks blank, but it's actually brilliant design. He used these massive glass surfaces, basically industrial skylights, instead of traditional opening windows facing the street.
Why do that?
To block out the street noise.
Oh, because it's a school.
Right. Even in 1933, Carolou Diehl was a busy, noisy street. You don't want the noise of cars and merchants interrupting a math lesson. But you still desperately need natural light in the classrooms.
So the glass lets light in but keeps the noise out.
Exactly. It floods the inner corridors and classrooms with soft light while acting as a sound barrier. And structurally, it respects what we call the continuous facade of the street.
Meaning it doesn't jut out or sit too far back.
Right, it lines up perfectly shoulder to shoulder with its older neighbors. But it completely breaks away from their decorative, fussy traditions. It's a machine designed for learning.
I love that contrast so much. You literally have the 1924 eclectic mansion on one corner screaming, "Look how incredibly rich I am." And then a few doors down, the 1933 modernist school is quietly saying, "Look how smart and rational I am."
Perfectly put. It perfectly encapsulates how rapidly the world and this city was changing in just those 9 years between 1924 and 1933. The city was modernizing, shedding the past, becoming more rational.
And there are other gems too, right? Like Megro Stein.
Oh, Megaro Stein, near the bottom of the street. That beautiful glass globe sitting on top of the roof.
And the red building nearby.
Megalongu, technically just off the street, but it contributes to that whole 1920s atmosphere.
So we have the ancient history with Diehl. We have the architectural history with the buildings. But a street is also about the daily vibe. Part 4, the street today. I always feel like Carolou Diehl isn't one street. It's actually 3 different streets stacked on top of each other.
It definitely has very distinct zones. If you walk from the sea all the way up to the top, you pass through completely different microcultures.
Let's break them down. Zone 1, the sea end. Down by Proxenu Cormila. This is the youthful zone.
The cocktail zone.
Yes. Especially recently. During the pandemic, this specific area really exploded with the whole takeaway drink culture.
Because all the bars were closed for sitting inside.
Right. You'd see hundreds of people, mostly young, standing out on the sidewalks with plastic cups, leaning against cars, just talking. And that energy somehow stuck, even after things opened up. It's crowding, it's loud, the music is pumping out of the doors, and it is very fashion forward.
It's where you go to see and be seen. It's the urban runway. But then you walk a block up, you cross Samiski Street, and you hit Zone 2.
The intellectual hub, this is the stretch going up to Agius Theodorus. You have these really historic, slightly quieter haunts, like Stretto.
Stretto is an absolute classic spot.
That's where all the journalists, the politicians, the writers used to gather, and still do. It feels a bit more grown up, a bit more, I don't know, deliberative.
It does. It has a slower pulse. And while we were in Zone 2, I have to mention the flower shop in the abandoned kiosk. Have you walked past that recently?
Oh, I love that so much. It used to be just a regular, boring newsstand kiosk, right? Selling newspapers and gum.
Yes. And when it closed down, instead of just letting it rust on the sidewalk, it was transformed. Now it is literally bursting with fresh flowers every day.
It's brilliant.
It adds so much vibrant color and scent to the gray pavement. It's a perfect example of reclaiming a small piece of urban infrastructure for something purely beautiful.
And there's culture right on the sidewalk, too. The OTE shop windows along that stretch.
The telecommunications building.
Yeah, they host these rotating monthly art exhibitions right in the street-facing windows. You can get a dose of contemporary art just by walking to work with your coffee.
Which honestly perfectly honors Charles Diehl's legacy. He believed in making art accessible. He didn't want Byzantine art to be hidden away in dusty university libraries. He wanted it to be part of the public conversation.
That's a great connection. And then finally, we keep walking up and we hit Zone 3, the upper end, moving towards Athanos Square.
And here, the whole atmosphere shifts to deep tradition.
It really does.
You suddenly see these handmade wicker baskets hanging outside the shops. You get the whole Papa Marcus street vibe crossing over. You have the historic little oozieries with the small tables.
The air literally smells different up there. It smells like grilled meat and spices and anise from the ouzo.
It's totally different from the espresso and perfume smell of Zone 1.
So the street really is a vertical timeline of the city's culture. You start with high-end cocktails at the bottom, move through coffee and art in the middle, and end up with ouzo and woven baskets at the top.
It is the full, concentrated Thessaloniki experience in about 500 meters of pavement.
Ooh. And here is the really big but. If you tried to drive a car through this beautiful 500-meter experience anytime in the last month, you were probably incredibly confused. Which brings us to part 5, the current events.
The great traffic shift of 2026.
Let's just get the news out there for anyone who hasn't driven downtown recently. On Friday, January 16th, 2026, literally just over a month ago, the world turned upside down on this street. Or at least the directional arrows did.
It was a massive change for local drivers. For as long as most of us can remember, Diehl was a one-way street heading up, meaning you drove from the sea, pointing north towards Ignatius Street.
And now, what happens now?
Now, from Thessaloniki Street, the traffic flows down, south towards Thessaloniki's heading right at the sea.
But wait, it's not the whole street, right? This is exactly where people are getting caught and getting beeped at.
Right, and this is crucial for anyone listening who is currently behind the wheel. The section from Thessaloniki going up to Castricchio remains completely unchanged. You still drive up there. It is only the bottom half, below Thessaloniki, that is reversed direction.
Okay, why confuse us like this? Is the city planning department just trying to see if we're actually awake during our morning commute?
No, it is definitely not a prank, though it feels like it the first time you approach the intersection. It's all part of the Phase B pedestrianization of Agia Sophia Street.
Ah, okay. The grand master plan for the center.
Exactly. The city has a long-term vision to make Agia Sophia entirely pedestrian, completely car-free, connecting the church to the sea. It's a noble urban goal. But as city planners know, cars are like water in a river. If you dam up the stream, that water has to go somewhere else.
It finds the path of least resistance.
Right. Those hundreds of cars that used to drive down Agia Sophia to get to the coastal road need a new designated path. So, Diehl, the parallel street, had to change its flow to accommodate all that displaced traffic.
So, in a really poetic way, the street, named after Charles Diehl, the man who came here to restore the Agia Sophia Church, is now sacrificing its own traditional traffic flow to help restore the streetscape around that very same church for pedestrians.
Wow, that is a really beautiful way to put it. I hadn't thought of it like that. But it connects perfectly back to the bigger picture of how cities evolve. This traffic reversal signals a major philosophical shift in the city's relationship with cars versus people.
Pushing the cars out.
Slowly but surely, we are prioritizing the walker, the stroller, the person lingering to look at an art window over the person just trying to drive through as fast as possible.
I mean, it's messy right now. I know people are frustrated. My taxi driver yesterday was practically shouting about it. But the ultimate vision is a much more human-scale city.
A city that, honestly, Charles Diehl would probably recognize and appreciate far more than the gridlocked, smoggy version of the late 20th century.
Because he walked everywhere.
He walked, he observed, he sketched. You cannot sketch the intricate brickwork of a Byzantine apse from a car moving at 40 kilometers an hour. You have to be on your feet.
So let's wrap this all up. We started with Charles Diehl, a passionate French guy in 1907, carefully gluing tiny gold mosaics back onto the ceiling of a fire-damaged Agia Sophia.
A true pioneer.
Then we walked past the grand, imposing mansions of the 1920s cotton tycoons who wanted triumphal arches for their front doors.
The eclectic era.
We looked at the sleek, noise-canceling glass of a 1930s modernist school. We grabbed a quick cocktail in the post-pandemic boom of Zone 1. And we ended up right here in 2026, watching the traffic lights flick direction to make way for a pedestrian-first future.
It is a really powerful reminder when you lay it out like that. A street isn't just concrete and asphalt. It is a living, breathing thing. It evolves constantly. It carries the physical scars from fires and earthquakes.
It has monuments that were saved by people who cared.
Yes, and it continually changes its shape and its flow to fit the needs of the people actually living on it today.
So here is my final thought. for you listening right now. Next time you walk down Carolou Diehl, maybe you're grabbing a coffee on your way to the office, or looking at a jacket in a Zara window, or maybe you're just dodging a car that is driving the wrong way down the new traffic flow.
Please look both ways.
Definitely look both ways, but take a second. Look up above the ground floor. Look at the marble arches. Think about the hidden gold crosses and the terrified apostles and the mosaics in the church just a block away. You aren't just standing on a street. You are walking through over a century of resilience, restoration, and total reinvention. And who knows, maybe 100 years from now, someone will be looking at the street wondering why we changed the traffic in 2026.
And that is a walk truly worth taking.
Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious and keep diving deep.
Goodbye, everyone.